Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is Captain
Oh
Cockings.
my god, and he is Lieutenant Corporal Second Sergeant Foley. The third.
Wow. Wow. Alternate timelines, alternate realities. Let's discuss. Today we're looking at, Picard, because there's a lot of issues with the time travel thing. And and we have a different point we have to make in this video.
No, we're doing case studies about the how time travel works in different episodes. So this is that's not how time travel works in Picard. Case study. Yesterday's Enterprise. Okay? So in Yesterday's Enterprise, the Enterprise D, in the prime timeline, bumps into an anomaly. The Enterprise C goes through the anomaly on its end, earlier in the timeline, comes into the future, changes the entire future. Everything's different, but they still exist at the Enterprise C. Then, they've set Guinan, obviously that's the big case of Guinan knowing the difference in the timeline, says you need to send them back to repair the timeline. Fantastic. Thing is, Tasha Yar goes on to the Enterprise C back in time. Then fights in the battle, gets captured, has a child, becomes Sealer. Now, in the Star Trek Picard logic of time travel, when you go back in time and change something, all of the future gets erased, including all the future time travel. They can never have happened because those people could never have gone back in time. So in Yesterday's Enterprise, as soon as Tasha Yar goes to the Enterprise C and resets the timeline, she could never have gone back in time, which means she would have been erased instantly. The Enterprise C's improvements and fixes would have been erased instantly, and they would just have re-entered the battle at the point they left with the same damage level and been destroyed. They could never have been a sealer because Tasha Yar could not have stayed in the past given her timeline was erased, and therefore could never have gone back in time, because if you can never have gone back in time, if there was never a time to go back from, a la Star Trek Picard, Tasha Yar could not exist, Sealer could not exist, but clearly Sealer and Tasha both exist.
Very excellent point. And as you kind of mentioned earlier, to me, off camera, was that time travel in Star Trek is like branches of a tree. Like you branch off. So you can change it. You can go back to the branch off divergent point and then continue forward again. So there's a lot of issues with the time zero thing never having happened. Especially, I just want to make this argument. It's April 12th, 2024. The event that changes the timeline is April 15th, 2024. So they got 3 days. Up to this point, everything is exactly the same. Nothing has changed yet. The divergent point doesn't exist. So there's absolutely everything has happened future-wise. TNG's happened. They've gone back. It's all there until the 15th.
Unless it's proven that they fail on the 15th and they have to go back in time for a second time and stop it. In which case, as soon as they get back,
In which case, Guinan will remember him this time.
the second time, yes, exactly. Because yes, if they've already fixed a timeline, which is the plot of Picard season 2, we assume, then TNG already exists again because it's already happened for the future to allow the past things to happen, etc. And if time is not that way, then that again diffuses so many other stories we've seen. But so, like I said, in Yes Enterprise, it's what I assume time travel being in Star Trek is time remnants are a thing, because there was a single timeline at one point, branching paths. I think like Back to the Future, it went forward and then people went backwards. But once you go backwards, you exist in that point in time because you have now travelled. You are now yourself in that past. You've done the thing you've chosen to do. You're in the past. Now, if your future gets changed, you've still been in the past because you still travelled that first time. Now, if you were to stop the person, maybe that would undo it. But if those events still happened, you still exist in both places at the same. In your life, you're in both places, even by changing the future. So by Tasha Yar coming from and that's not an alternate future. Well, it is, but that's not an alternate universe. That was explicitly the prime timeline changed. So it's the exact same thing as Picard. It's a same timeline, but it's been altered. Tasha can't exist. Now, if you argue that the anomaly protected her from timeline changes, then you're creating special pleading to certain things can stop people from being erased. But then, like the Q, but then things like relativity and the 31st century people, they would obviously, given their work is time travel, would have the ability to ignore the ripples in the timeline. We see relativity scanning the timeline, seeing the changes, adapting to them, which means even if Picard timeline changed the Federation, the relativity and time cops would all still exist and be working to stop it. They would not be affected because of their temporal shielding, because that is literally their job. you can't do both. So I always thought time remnants existed, even with changes. These people still, the Voyager episodes say happened when they're in the past. Kirk was always in the past, etc. Once you've gone back, you are now there. And if you were to do an episode where you go back, you would still see them because you haven't undone their travel by undoing their event. There is still one of them in the future. A la Back to the Future, even though they fix the timeline, there is still an evil Biff in the present to stop. And he does go back to his future, but it's because of they haven't yet changed everything around, etc. So it's
I feel like we almost need a whiteboard and we can just draw the timelines on it to explain things better, because Doc Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's splintering. It goes forward and it changes, but the past is still the past. The past has still been affected, has still happened, etc., etc. Otherwise, every time we do anything, all of the people that were in the past that have changed the past will now be erased, which means all of the events they've now happened have now been changed instantly. So by changing Picard, Chronoworks doesn't happen, for example, in Future's End, which means the technology of the 21st century is now radically different because they didn't get the advanced technology, which means all of that stuff's different, which then you can't have like the Enterprise D in the same way because that didn't happen the same way either. So those ripples are so huge if you undo all the past stuff. Plus, time trips are designed to work in time. If they could get erased with every time trip, then imagine a time agent changing one thing and then he stops existing. It's like, well, you literally need to have tech that stops that. That's why time agents are there, to protect the timeline, etc. So that's one case study for no, there are time remnants, in which case Time Zero did exist, did happen, as did Star Trek 4, a la the guy on the bus as well. They did still happen, it's just they did still go back into their future, which had now been changed. It's a whole thing, but they did still exist in the past. That's our thought. Make up your own mind, guys.
And comment your own mind down below. By all means, share this video. Check out the other videos we're doing on this. We're doing pro and con videos. And make sure you're subscribed and notified so you don't miss those. So until the next one, he is still Captain Cockings in this reality.
And he is too high a rank for you to even say his name.
It's unpronounceable by humans. So until next time, guys.
Bye, guys.
See ya.